Myozan here from Zen Buddhism Ireland, and you're very welcome to this first installment in our reading of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Suzuki Roshi. This is a book that has had a huge influence on my life, and I'm sure on many of your lives as well. In this sharing circle, this reading of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, I'm hoping that I kick things off and someone else can lead another time as we read the book chapter by chapter over the weeks and months ahead. So I might do the first one or two, and then someone might offer their own personal response to each succeeding chapter as we read the book. And then someone else could take it up if they wish, and it might come back to me, and so on. So, as this is a personal response to this book, I'll just let you know where I first encountered Suzuki Roshi's book. This edition I have here comes from 1985. It's the 15th reprinting of the book, which was first published in 1970. I bought it in 1986 when I was a teenager in Galway, actually, and I've had this book and read it many times since. So when I was 16 I read it first. The book, as I said, was published in 1970, and credit should go to Marion Derby, who taped the Dharma talks that Suzuki Roshi gave, that this book is based on, and also to Trudy Dixon, who edited the talks together in this sequence and made it readable as a book. I suppose this book's in many ways set me out on the path of Zen Buddhism, and so I have a great, although I belong to a different lineage, Nishijima Roshi's lineage, I have a great debt to Shinro Suzuki for this book. So I thought what we'd do today is start with the prologue. It's short, so I might just read it. People say that practicing Zen is difficult, but there is a misunderstanding as to why. It is not difficult because it is hard to sit cross-legged, in the cross-legged position, or to attain enlightenment. It is difficult because it is hard to keep our mind pure and our practice pure in its fundamental sense. The Zen school developed in many ways after it was established in China, but at the same time it became more and more impure. But I do not want to talk about Chinese Zen or the history of Zen. I am interested in helping you keep your practice from becoming impure. In Japan, we have the phrase shōshin, which means beginner's mind. The goal of practice is always to keep our beginner's mind. Suppose you recite the Prajnaparamita Sutra only once. It might be a very good recitation, but what would happen to you if you recited it twice, 3 times, 4 times or more? You might easily lose your original attitude towards it. The same thing will happen in your other Zen practices. For a while you will keep your beginner's mind, but if you continue to practice 1, 2, 3 years or more, although you may improve some, you are liable to lose the limitless meaning of original mind. For Zen students, the most important thing is not to be dualistic. Our original mind includes everything within itself. It is always rich and sufficient within itself. You should not lose your self-sufficient state of mind. This does not mean a closed mind, but actually an empty mind and a ready mind. If your mind is empty, it is always ready for anything. It is open to everything. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. in the expert's mind, there are few. If you discriminate too much, you limit yourself. If you are too demanding or too greedy, your mind is not rich and self-sufficient. If you lose our original self-sufficient mind, if we lose our original self-sufficient mind, we will lose all precepts. When your mind becomes demanding, when you long for something, you will end up violating your own precepts. Not to tell lies, not to steal, not to kill, not to be immoral, and so forth. If you keep your original mind, the precepts will keep themselves. In the beginner's mind, there is no thought. I have attained something. All self-centered thoughts limit our vast mind. When we have no thought of achievement, no thought of self, we are true beginners. Then we can really learn something. The beginner's mind is the mind of compassion. When our mind is compassionate, it is boundless. Dogen Zenji, the founder of our school, always emphasized how important it is to resume our boundless original mind. Then we are always true to ourselves, in sympathy with all beings, and can actually practice. So the most difficult thing is always to keep your beginner's mind. There is no need to have a deep understanding of Zen. Even though you read much Zen literature, you must read each sentence with a fresh mind. You should not say, I know what Zen is, or I have attained enlightenment. This is also the real secret of the arts. Always be a beginner. Be very, very careful about this point. If you start to practice Zazen, you will begin to appreciate your beginner's mind. It is the secret of Zen practice. That's the prologue to Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Beautiful way of expressing himself as a teacher, Shinryu Suzuki. Beautiful cadences, beautiful simplicity to these most complex and subtle teachings. And already in this prologue we see some key ideas being explored. The idea of non-discriminating mind, of leaving behind discrimination, and also the teachings really of not one, not two, of the reality that which is not dualistic, and I suppose in this idea of beginner's mind also is latent the reality of now, of encountering every moment for the first time. The past being something that no longer exists, that doesn't truly exist, and the future not something that truly exists, that the only true existence is this flash of now, this moment of the Dharmakaya in its total manifestation. I think one of the things I love about this book is the language of Suzuki Roshi, and how he manages to speak very intimately with the reader, of course the listener as it was originally. What an intimate teacher he is, what a gentle teacher he is, what an accessible teacher he is, and the way that he turns a phrase that burns itself into your memory, like in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, in the expert's mind there are few. So already we see in the preface, the prologue, some of the central teachings of the book in terms of its teachings on dualism, Zen teachings on dualism, Zen teachings on encountering the present moment, and also how practice itself is keeping the precepts. Contrary, I suppose, to this Christian idea of original sin, in the beginning we have sin. This idea, the idea here is presented by Suzuki Roshi, is that in the beginning we have a kind of naturalness, that there is a spontaneity to the precepts, to living an ethical life, in approaching reality with this sho shin, this beginner's mind, which he talks about. So that's the prologue. It's already very rich with teachings, and it's also so really embodies the spirit of Zen, that it's not about book learning. It's not about being, mastering the sutras. It's about practicing, as Dogen would see it, practice enlightenment, that they are one. The whole point is practice, and in that spirit, as we find in the prologue, Suzuki Roshi moves straight on, or should I say, the editor, the way they've put the book together, moves straight into part one of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which looks at right practice. And I'll take up the reading next week with looking at the first chapter of the right practice section, which deals with posture. And again, the emphasis is on a practical application of the teachings, on practice itself. And this is the simple practical spirit of this book by this teacher, and that's, I think, why it's been such a popular and enduring teaching over so many years now. So we'll move on next time looking at posture, and then hopefully someone will take up the discussion after that. Indeed, the first 3 chapters, in a way, are teaching how to sit Zen itself. He looks at posture, and he looks at breathing, and what's going on in the mind waves, mind weeds, etc. In a way, this is Suzuki Roshi's Fuganza Zengi. It is like Dogen's teachings on how to sit Zazen, his universal recommendations to everybody on how to sit Zazen. In a way, the first 3 chapters after the prologue are Suzuki Roshi's own Fuganza Zengi. So I look forward to reading the book with you in the weeks and months ahead, and if anyone has any comments, they can email me at myozankodo@gmail.com, myozankodo@gmail.com, and you can post comments, agreements, disagreements, whatever, in the Zen Buddhism Ireland site on Facebook. And so thanks very much for your attention, and thank you very much for your practice. See you next week.